Get into the NFL coaching carousel. We've talked about this now over the course of the Nick Saban segment, but there were a lot of coach firings. I think none bigger surprise was sort of the one that came out today. Pete Carroll. You were shocked by it. I was shocked by it. With this is my take on it. Seattle the last few years, and you talked about this, Josh, going into the season. We like their roster. We love DK Metcalf, a receiver. Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, two great corners on the outside.
Kenneth Walker at running
Kenneth
back.
Walker, running back. I think Seattle underachieved this year, and part of that was because Geno Smith wasn't as good as he was a year ago.
I mean, you remember how much I was hyping up the Seahawks and
you thought that they were at least the fourth best team in the NFC, if not third.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think Pete is a great coach, and a lot of these defensive coaches, I think, are more rah-rah guys that are more building the culture. And I think you can win with a defensive coach if you have a superstar quarterback, aka Josh Allen in Buffalo, what Belichick did with Brady in New England.
CJ Stroud in Houston.
CJ Stroud in Houston, yes. But excuse me, Seattle does not have that. And, I think Seattle has to make a big move here. There's reports out there that basically that Dan Quinn is going to get this job, which to me is a lateral move by Seattle. I don't get it. I think they need to go younger. Shane Waldron was on the staff, has a good offensive mind for the McVay tree. Could have thought about promoting him. But I think at the end of the day here, Seattle needs to go out. They need to get a better offensive-minded coach and go get themselves a franchise quarterback.
This kind of ties back into our previous segment about Nick Saban. You would think if Seattle's going to fire Pete Carroll, which it certainly sounds like that's what happened, you would think they would have some sort of succession plan in place. Much like what I'm saying about Nick Saban retiring. Like, you would think he would have informed the people at Alabama already, so they would have time to create a succession plan, of some sort. So I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle moves quickly and hires a new head coach in the next week or so.
See, in the NFL, I think all of these teams right now are doing their evaluation processes. And I think when the news that Vrabel came out, I don't think Seattle wanted to sort of upstage Tennessee. But I think it was time. I was saying it. Pete Carroll, I love him. He's a great rah-rah guy, but it just sort of felt like Seattle needs to change into more of an offensive identity culture. And will they do that? Who knows? But it just felt like time for Pete Carroll. And we are going to talk about the Chargers job. Because if you don't land Jim Harbaugh, who we'll get into later in the show, you have Bill Belichick, you have Mike Vrabel, you have Pete Carroll, all defensive coaches. And we've been saying, listen, the Chargers, they had a defensive coach, Brandon Staley. He was a disaster. But Brandon Staley was not ready to be a head coach. Mike Vrabel, proven head coach. Pete Carroll, proven head coach. Bill Belichick, proven head coach. Those are three major options for the Los Angeles Chargers if they want to go that route. If you don't land who we all presume is the number one coaching candidate on the market.
Yeah. I mean, Tennessee, that move made no sense to me.
So let me push back on that. I'm the only person in the world that's going to push back on that. But I will say this. Name me the last time the Tennessee Titans were actually good. Like 3 years ago?
Okay, so they had losing seasons the last 2 years. So what?
They are boring net offensively. They're too built into the running game and defensive culture. They have not drafted a quarterback. They drafted two of them that are both busts. And Vrabel, as good of a coach as he is, he really rode the way. That was sort of a special team. Ryan Tannehill played good for like 8 games, and they got to the AFC Championship game against Kansas City. They beat Baltimore that year. and Arthur Smith, he was their offensive coordinator. But Tennessee, they're not good. They don't have a lot of pieces. And again, to me, it was time for a reset. Rip the Band-Aid off. Go get yourself a franchise quarterback. Get a guy that's aligned with the GM, and let Vrabel go in with a winning organization. I thought it made sense for both sides.
I didn't. I thought it was a bad move.
Name me the year that you have looked at the Tennessee Titans and said, "Oh, they're really well coached. That's a Super Bowl team."
How about the year they got the number one?
They were never they were never the number one seed. They got beat by Cincinnati. They weren't real Super Bowl contenders.
You even said it yourself. They made it to the AFC Championship game.
Everybody knew, but nobody thought they were going to beat Kansas City, Josh.
But weren't they winning that game?
What, 7-0? Would they lose 50-14?
Tennessee kept it competitive for a while. They were winning at halftime.
Hold on. I'm doing live research here.
Let's see.
So, AFC Championship. Okay.
Kansas. No,
here we go. It's 35-24. Kansas City was up 21-17 at half.
So it was only a 4-point game. There you go.
But again, nobody really felt Tennessee was going to win that game.
I don't know if you can say that, but...
Oh, so you really felt like that Derrick Henry was going to go in there and beat the Chiefs. Come on.
Hey, I'm not saying me, but what about all the Titans fans?
Well, fans are fans. Fans stand for fanatic. You make fun of me every week because I say that my Eagles are going to win and then we end up getting killed by the Giants.
Oh,
that's the same philosophy. That's the same philosophy.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to talk about your Eagles, and I can't wait.
All right, so let's move then to the NFC East. Ron Rivera. We all knew he was getting fired. I'll tell you what. I think the next head coach of the Washington Commanders, and this scares me to death as an Eagles fan because the Commanders have been bad my whole life. I think the Washington Commanders' new head coach will be a guy who just 48 hours ago hosted the national championship trophy. Jim Harbaugh will be the Washington Commanders head coach. It's right down the road from John Harbaugh in Baltimore. You get the number 2 pick in the draft, and who knows what the hell Chicago's doing. You may be able to trade up to number 1 and get Caleb Williams.
No, I don't think Jim Harbaugh is going to Washington. But
fresh start, huge cap space. You have the receiver in Terry McLaurin. You have a great defensive line. You have a good running back. All the pieces are in place with Washington except the quarterback.
Do you really think Jim Harbaugh wants to go to a shithole like FedEx Field?
See, that's the difference. This is a completely new Commanders team. New ownership, led, by the way, on this coaching search. It's Bob Myers, the former Golden State Warriors executive. With the Commanders, I think are going to take their time. I think they want to make a big splash. I personally feel like Jim Harbaugh or Bill Belichick will be their head coach next year.
I could see Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, being their head coach.
I don't think they want to go young, a new, fresh, head coach. I think they want to go with an experienced guy to get the fan base excited in the Commanders again. I think Ben Johnson is going to fit very well, potentially, maybe in Carolina or the Chargers.
Nobody would fit in well with Carolina.
I know you just think that they're a complete dumpster fire, but
they are. David, their owner threw water on
last year the
Houston
Texans, Josh Ungar. Last year the Houston Texans were they not?
Yes, the Houston Texans were a total shit show last year.
Okay, this year are they a total shit show?
No, they won the AFC South.
Thank you. So you can turn things around very quickly in the NFL. You get the right quarterback, you get the right coach. We don't know about the quarterback. I'm still higher on him than you are.
Nope.
I think you get the right coach, gets Bryce Young's skill set. Atlanta's a mess. The Saints are a freaking mess. What the hell are the Saints doing? I think Carolina can turn this thing around pretty quickly.
I don't. No way.
Listen, last year we were saying Indianapolis was a mess. Did Shane Steichen not turn that team around? I know they didn't win to make the playoffs. They're in the right direction. They were a circus last year. They hired Jim Irsay, or not Jim Irsay, Jeff Saturday as their head coach.
Okay. But Jim Irsay is not as bad of an owner as David Tepper.
He's pretty meddling.
Yes, but did Jim Irsay throw water onto Jaguars fans?
I think if he had the opportunity, he would have. Jim Irsay's impulsive. He's difficult. There's a reason why that franchise, they ruined Andrew Luck, obviously, but for a 5-year period, they kept trying to rotate Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz. They finally just ripped the Band-Aid off.
Which I think they're good. When they get Anthony Richardson back, look out.
So
but I want to go to one of the most intriguing coaching vacancies, the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I actually agree. By the way, Arthur Smith's a hack. Thank God Arthur Smith's gone. That boy can go work with his father at FedEx for all I care.
I mean, look at what you have in Atlanta. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. If Jim Harbaugh went there and he got a legit quarterback, Atlanta would be scary.
I think Ben Johnson would be a good fit also in Atlanta. And I also think, and I told you this, Atlanta is not going to be really in the range to get one of these top quarterbacks in the draft. If I'm Atlanta, I am offering at least a second-round pick. I think you go get Justin Fields, and you use your draft pick to build the defensive side of the ball. You already have the offensive weapons. You don't need to draft more offensive pieces. You can get the quarterback via trade, use the draft and use free agency to build the rest of your linebackers and your secondary.
That would be – I like it for Atlanta. I would keep an eye on Jim Harbaugh going to the Falcons. I really would.
I highly doubt that. I don't think because excuse me. Harbaugh to me will either want his choice at quarterback, which he could get at Washington, or he will go with the already experienced quarterback in Justin Herbert. If you go to Atlanta, there's no guarantee you can get Justin Fields. There's no guarantee you can get a quarterback in this next year's draft.
Okay. If the Raiders do not hire Alec Pierce as their...
You mean Antonio Pierce?
Yes, Antonio Pierce. Thank you. If they do not remove the interim tag and keep him as their head coach, they're stupid.
I completely agree with you.
They need to keep Antonio Pierce as their head coach. Like, you saw how well that team and those players bought into him. If they do make this mistake again, they are just, I don't know what to say.
Again, the Raiders, they have some interesting pieces in place. Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, to me, they're a quarterback away. Who they decide to take in the draft will be interesting. We'll hear more about the rumors when it comes to the quarterbacks as the draft gets closer. Josh, I'm going to tell you right now as we wrap up this segment, there's one other team out there that has not fired their coach yet. This team did not make the playoffs. But no, it's not the Saints. I'm telling you, I know a little bit from this organization. I've read sources. I've read reports. Don't be surprised if Jacksonville makes a move.
You think they would give up on Doug Peterson that quickly?
To me, it's exactly what happened at the end of the Philadelphia. It's deja vu all over again. The owner makes Doug Peterson change his staff around. Jacksonville struggles, and Doug either resigns or they move on. It may not happen this offseason. They could struggle out of the gate, though, next year. If he does stay, I think Doug Peterson right now, especially with everything that's going on with the Khan family right now, and they are an impatient ownership group. I don't know, man. I don't know, Doug Peterson, with all these head coaching options on the market, does Jacksonville go out and make a move? I really think it's possible.
I would keep an eye, even though they made the playoffs, and even though he hasn't had a losing season for like 17 years or whatever it is, I would keep an eye on Pittsburgh.
I think that will be Mike Tomlin's decision. Now, Tomlin may decide if the again, to me, it all comes down to the Chargers job. This is the best job in the NFL in maybe a decade. Star quarterback, star receivers, star running back, good offensive line, great foundational piece on defense. You need to draft the right tackle. You need to get a center, and you probably need another corner. Like, they are ready to win right now.
See, here's the problem with the Chargers is your secondary in LA to the Rams. They're basically like the NFL equivalent of the Clippers.
But if you win in LA, especially, you have all these stars, right? Herbert's one of the stars in LA with so many other ball clubs. So,
right. But this is why I think the Chargers should have stayed in San Diego. So fuck you, Spanos.
well, that was strong.